All right, everyone, we are live. We technically have 20 seconds, but I'll go ahead and give the spiel anyway. So basically, the goal of these debates is to promote discussion about the important issues that we face today. We want to create a space that is as open as possible to new ideas and perspectives, both within these discussions and within our Breck community. My goal as a moderator is to make sure this happens. I will be warning you when we are approaching the end of time, but other than that, my job is to make sure that this is a civil space and any kind of disrespect towards other participants will not be tolerated. The rules of the debate are as follows. Each participant will be given 2 minutes to make their opening statement, after which there will be about 12 minutes of discussion, and then we'll close out with 5 minutes of audience questions. For our viewers, we ask that you only use the chat for the end questions. And we'll be starting with Josh's opening. Josh, you have 2 minutes.
All right, thanks, Abby. Hello, my name is Josh Furman, and I'm going to be arguing the anti-cancel culture position. I'm going to use this opening to kind of get some things out of the way and to clarify my position a bit first, and then use the open discussion in order to make my points. First, let me make something clear. I'm not against cancel culture across the board. As my opponents will say, cancel culture has fundamentally shifted the monopoly of power away from the powerful to the masses. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing, as we all saw in the Me Too movement. The important distinction that I'd like to make between the Me Too movement and cancel culture is the legality of it. What Harvey Weinstein and other rich and powerful men were doing in Hollywood was disgusting, horrific, and most importantly, illegal, as it landed Weinstein a 23-year prison sentence. To me, this is a necessary difference to make. Using the masses of cancel culture in order to call someone out for doing something illegal that they otherwise would have gotten away with is a perfectly legitimate use of the power that cancel culture has provided us. However, as I'll explain later, the other uses of cancel culture that don't cross this legality line are harmful, distracting from real issues, and very rarely change minds. And another thing that I would just like to get out of the way. I will not be defending any of the actions of the people that I use as examples. They range from iffy to holy shit categories. So I would just like to get off the bat that I won't defend their actions, but only that the way they were shunned, shamed, and canceled under the guise of some self-righteous crucifixion. With that, I'm very excited for our first student-led Socratic debate, and I hope that we have this opportunity to explore a very complex issue.
Thank you, Josh. Okay, so next we'll be having Lucas give his opening statement.
Okay. So thank you guys, first of all, so much for having this discussion. I'm glad we can come together and have these types of discussions, because I think actually being able to talk about these things openly is really important. So thank you. So similar to Josh, I'm on the same side in the sense that I am arguing anti-cancel culture. If you have talked to me or have heard my senior speech, you would know that I'm very much against the idea of it. I agree that, you know, we've been seeing more and more of it in society nowadays with, you know, increasing social media use and that kind of thing. But I think that it's really just a toxic trend that has kind of infected our society and, you know, needs to be removed or seriously altered. So, you know, similar to Josh, I'll allow the 12-minute, you know, arguing time to really get into my points, but I'll kind of just lay the frameworks right here. So first of all, I think cancel culture really, the biggest issue I have with it is that it creates a fear of mistakes. And if you fear making a mistake, it's about the most human thing you can do. And if you're afraid to make a mistake, you cannot grow. Also, I'd say cancel culture is pretty hypocritical. Most of the people that are, you know, making the decision on, you know, like I would say, who determines what is a cancelable offense and what isn't? Some people are, you know, praised for making a mistake and even said that's their chance to grow, and others completely cut off and canceled for it. So I think that's one of the most toxic things about cancel culture. Another thing is the mob mentality sense of cancel culture and how it's so incredibly easy to just hop on the bandwagon of canceling someone for a fact that you may not even know to be true.
Sorry, Lucas, you're at time, but I'm excited to hear what you have to say. Shania, You have 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm Shania, and I just want to say thank you for allowing me to come on here and get a chance to hear new perspectives and argue new perspectives. For me, I see the toxicity in cancel culture, and so I will be arguing pro cancel culture, but as kind of the basis of the argument and not what it has kind of turned into today. I see cancel culture as kind of a way to hold celebrities and influencers and people that have power and kind of the social media and pop culture of our world and hold them accountable for problematic actions that in the past people have gotten away with despite it being just as kind of insensitive as it was then as it is now. I think that with the current times and everything that's been happening, people are a lot more aware of what's more socially acceptable to say and what isn't. And while I think that cancel culture in its way of kind of helping people educate themselves and come back from their mistakes is definitely skewed, I think the basis of the foundation of cancel culture was rooted in a good idea and how we need to stop letting people that have more power or money get away with things that we wouldn't let people in our ordinary lives get away with. And I also kind of see it as a way that what Josh was saying, that we as people that don't maybe have as much influence can make our voices heard in things like school, for Black at Breck, or to have change in our everyday lives, or in I don't know, just certain things. That's it. I just want to
All right. Thank you, Shania. You're at time. And then McKenna, last opening statement. All right. Hi. So thank you guys for all tuning in, and thank you to my opponents for showing up. It's really cool of you. So a little more than 3 years ago, the actress Alyssa Milano tweeted, "If you've been sexually harassed, write me too," as a reply to this tweet. This tweet was the pebble that started the avalanche. Thousands of women came forward with their stories. Over 80 women came forward against, as my opponent mentioned, Josh Harvey Weinstein, his long career of sexual violence against women. He is now sentenced to 23 years in prison. What I'm here to argue is that those women would have not gotten justice if it hadn't been for social media justice. It's arguable that the Me Too movement was the origin of cancel culture, as it saw former victims band down to take their accusers. Louis C.K., Bill O'Reilly, R. Kelly, Matt Lauer, Kevin Spacey. When the institutions of our society fail to give due process to the victims, they must take justice in their own hands. After years of Black students asking Breck to do something actionable about racism in the community, we saw the creation of Black at Breck to give voice to those unheard within our class. They couldn't find justice from a traditional authority, so they created my opponent. My opponents will tell you that canceling has gone too far, that once someone has been canceled, they will lose their job and reputation. And to that, I would ask them to rewatch the testimony of Christine Blasey Ford and the confirmation of Brett Kavanaugh. Canceling is a tool, and like any tool, it can be abused. But unless someone here can provide a better solution to prosecuting people in positions of authority when traditional justice fails, I will maintain the stance that canceling is a net benefit to our society. At the very least, it has made the world a safer place for women to be in. I thank you, and enjoy the stream. All right, thank you. So now we're going to have 12 minutes of open discussion, and however you want to facilitate that, just make sure that we leave enough time for everybody to get their points in. Thank you.
All right, I don't really know where to start, so let's just let me just kind of talk about what I touched on in my opening statement. So the three things that I see are the biggest problem with cancel culture are they're harmful to individuals. Now, sometimes that harm is just like with the example with Harvey Weinstein and Kevin Spacey, but other times it's not, as in the case of Maria Tuskin, who was an Instagram knitting community lady. I just found out about the Instagram knitting community as well. I don't follow other things, but she made scarves and she knit stuff for other people. But once she got canceled, she no longer does that. She lost her ability to do.
What was she canceled over?
So another person in the Instagram knitting community, I know they're very scandalous like that, but another person in the Instagram knitting community used like othering language when they were talking about their trip to India, and she jumped in to defend her, and then got canceled and had thousands of hateful letters written about her. English is hard. And so it is harmful to individuals. And something that McKenna said was like, yeah, the gun misfires a couple of times, but it hits most of its targets. I would like to argue instead that cancel culture is like a broken clock. It's right twice a day. Like, it is right sometimes, but it's off the majority of the time, and it is harmful to individuals. As a result.
Josh, I'm going to have to push back on that. Like, if we are talking about broad canceling movements, it is very unlikely the average person gets canceled. It's very much a weapon against people of authority, not people in everyday life.
I would say, I would push back too. I'd agree with Josh. I'd say, even if you are not being directly canceled and affected in that way by cancel culture, I would say that the culture itself has had such an effect on our society as a whole that it trickles down and affects you in your little actions every day, such as, hey, do I say this thing, or am I going to be judged? Am I going to be maybe canceled for it? So maybe you might not be canceled for it, but it's that conscious decision of thinking about what you're going to say. And, you know, like you've said, that's good in a sense. I'm not defending people's actions. Like Josh said, it is justified sometimes to, you know, hold people accountable, but I would say it misses most times as well, just because there's so many people that, you know, we might not know someone like your best friend that might not have been canceled, but like I said, it affects many people in different ways, and I think it does miss most times.
I think that in a way we're kind of arguing two different things. We're arguing about like how toxic it is, which is, I feel like, an agreement kind of like something we all think. But the difference is, like, this is what cancel culture is now and not what it started out as. It was a way to like say, like, I think like a couple years ago, like some big influencer celebrity could, like, example, say the N-word, and I don't, like, obviously some people would get upset, but the backlash would be like kind of low for like something of that like kind of value, and at least in my opinion. And I think now it's more of a like, is it okay to say this? Like, is my words or my actions going to harm someone else in a large scale? Because as a person who like doesn't have a lot of influence, when you see people that do have a lot of influence say things like that and no one really calls them out because they don't care or because they have so much power, it hurts, because like that kind of, like, that's, you see that every day and you're like, well, why do they like get to be above like everyone else? Where like if someone said that in the middle of the hallway, like that would be a problem.
Yeah, I just want to ask you guys a quick question about that. So like, I think there's the route of like canceling someone. To me is kind of like, it's turned into maybe, you know, we're ending this person. We are done with this person. They are done. We are not supporting them in any way, shape, or form. Whereas maybe the other route to go, I would say, is maybe let's educate this person. Let's teach them how they can do better so they can make change in a more effective way, rather than shaming them and only casting stones.
I mean, in an ideal world, that would be exactly what we want. We would want everyone to be totally on the reform and stuff. And I agree, there's this kind of like ruthless nature to it, and is over party hashtag. But like, if we want to talk about like truly long lasting effects, it's not there. Louis C.K. took a 10-month break and then went on to do a sold out tour. Michael Jackson's streams and his music went up. Same with R. Kelly. Like, if we're talking about the actual repercussions of canceling from a financial or reputation standpoint, it seems that after enough time goes on, they will be okay.
Yeah, so that is a valid point. Like, a lot of celebrities who have been canceled have been able to make a comeback. Well, not even a comeback. Like, they've been able to regain their status, but it rarely changes people's minds. If cancel the point of cancel culture is to prevent people from saying something, or to prevent or to attack those with power who have used those power in a wrong way. It rarely changes people's minds. Like, and in fact, in the case of Maria Tuskin, I know she's back, the Instagram knitting lady. When she got canceled, the person that she defended, she actually specifically said that that lady is now controlled by the mob. By mob, she meant in cancel culture, like social media, and that she no longer felt beholden to responding to what other people said. And so now she's openly xenophobic. She's openly racist. And now she's making yarn and scarves and all this stuff that have racist like names or racist things on them.
I am fascinated to see what a racist scarf looks like.
So am I, and I didn't really want to look it up.
I mean,
Go ahead.
no, I actually don't have anything. Lucas, go ahead.
Okay. I was going to ask, so what do you guys, I just kind of want to bring up a question. So I know a lot of times, like, you know, fake news, big talking point nowadays. There's lots of, it's a dangerous thing. Like, you know, the fake news, it's a dangerous thing that I can see feeding into cancel culture at times. So if you directly quote this person saying something, there's video of them saying something, oh yeah, maybe they cancel them for that. But sometimes there can be speculation that someone thinks this, or speculation that someone said this. And it's so incredibly easy for someone to speculate someone saying something and then say, you know, I'm pretty sure this person said something. And then, you know, before you know it, the mob mentality, people have just hopped on it right away, all over Twitter. This person canceled for something they might not have even said. What do you guys think about the aspect of fake news in cancel culture and fake, like, misquoting and that kind of thing?
I think it's a definite problem, and I've definitely seen like little like rumors spiral out of control. But I've actually started to see, and partly because of the Me Too movement and like the way like we need to like believe women, I think that when someone has started to accuse someone like falsely, like, and people figure it out, like, or not even figure it out, but like people have started to do more research. And I've noticed that just basically like on the social media platforms I'm on, because people will be like, did this really happen? Like, is there proof? Like, why? Like where is this? Where is the source coming from? Because it's such a fear that like people always like are worried about like women falsely accusing someone, that like they sometimes tend not to believe the women that are like that's truly been hurt. And I think that that's kind of made it crack down on people that like will falsely accuse and kind of spread news just for, I don't know, the drama or news.
And I do think we should talk about like cancel culture today. If we were having this conversation 2 or 3 years ago, I think I would agree with you. The burden of proof for an is over party was much lower then. I feel like now with canceling, there is some fact checking that needs to go into it because people have recognized that this is toxic. I do think that cancel culture is reforming itself into a positive way. I don't know if any of you are active users on Twitter, but I am. And the amount of times an is over party or like a canceling hashtag appears in my feed is very low just because people take it more seriously now. People know what it can do.
I agree with that, but I'd also like to bring up a different point about why cancel culture isn't, you know,
we got 3
great.
minutes left, Josh, so please do it speedily.
Oh, 3 minutes? All right, I will zoom through this. All right, so the biggest complaint that I have against cancel culture, Lucas's is all about like toxicity and stuff. Mine is about that it is distracting from actual issues and actual people who are racist, who are homophobic, who are doing these bad things. Like, in 2019, Kevin Hart got canceled and removed from hosting the Oscars, right? But in 2019, hate crime violence reached a 16-year all-time high. You know how much I heard about Kevin?
Okay.
No, hold on.
Most people were looked into.
No, hold on.
Let him finish.
Just let me finish real quick. All right. You know how much I heard about Kevin Hart on the news? I heard like 3 days worth of stories about this. Like, it was a thing. All right. You know how much I heard about hate crime violence? Nothing. Because cancel culture, it allows regular people to pretend like they're fighting racism and fighting homophobia and sexism under the guise of like, oh, we got him, guys, but like that's like shooting like the duck when there's like a 15-pound deer next to you. Like, oh, we got the duck, guys, but there's this deer over here that you completely missed.
Yes, the deer is handled by the Hate Crimes Investigation Bureau that America has. There are people get prosecuted for hate crimes. People don't get prosecuted for like being casual racist. And to your point that like doesn't do anything to change anyone's mind, I at the very least have been more informed about my actions. Like through watching other people fail, and I know this is slightly sadistic, I think people have learned about what is appropriate and what's okay. And I think just through being more aware of what we're doing being racist, we as a society have become less racist.
Do you think I agree with like part of that statement. I do agree that, it's maybe positively helped me in some senses like that. Like I feel like I've been educated a little more about what is maybe like politically right to say. But also, I think how much of that do you think is fear too, and people fearing saying the wrong thing? Because I feel like part of it is, hey, now I know the right thing. But I feel like another problem I have with cancel culture is it's less about educating someone, like I said earlier, about what's the right thing to say, which I've gotten a little bit of it, but it's more so we are shaming you if you're saying the wrong thing. So that's kind of the issue I have. It's distracting, like Josh said.
All right, guys, we're going to take time for questions now. And what we have currently is from Mr. Bevan. I hope I'm saying that right. I haven't met him. But we have a question that says, do we need to change the terminology with regard to this debate? Is someone only canceled through social media? Is canceling effective outside of social media? And doesn't canceling prevent needed questions from being asked and needed conversations from being had? So I think anyone can take this question.
Well, I think it's in the name, canceling culture. Culture is not just on social media. It's not just on one specific platform. It's a culture that we have as a society. Social media has just exponentially made that culture bigger. Like it, instead of like, oh, this person gets shunned from like this specific place for doing this, now that person is shunned the entire world because everyone can know their name because we have the ability to communicate with each other with the click of a button. And to the second part of your question, is canceling effective outside of social media? Not as much, because social media, again, it's worldwide. It is global. We can all use social media.
I also would say that like cancel culture, I think kind of only exists on social media because like when people do things that like gets them canceled, I've never heard of like anyone coming up to them like in person and like, I don't know, like being rude. And I think that it just shows like the kind of the focus, because these instances happen on social media. Like these people are canceled because of like videos, comments they've said, tweets they've posted, and then that's where it's coming from. Like people aren't watching them do something in public and then shunning them. Like this whole thing has been filtered through an online stream.
I guess I'll put my 2 cents on the issue. I don't really know what Josh is saying when he says that cancel culture exists outside of social media. At the very least, it would be, I mean, how would you cancel someone in real life? Everyone go up to them and start yelling at them, you're canceled, you're done, you're over? And if so, has that ever occurred? Could you please provide me evidence on that statement? It is very much an online phenomenon, and I would argue it draws attention to important issues. Maybe not in the way that would be ideal, but in a way that is eye-catching.
So McKenna, remember that book that we read in 11th grade called The Scarlet Letter, which was all about...
Oh, yes, because we all live in 18th century Salem. I'm sorry that I will push back on your...
Abby, you were raising your hand?
Oh, no, I just wanted you to be able to finish your statement. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I think also there was something in the Bible that Jesus said, like they were stoning a woman for something. I think it was like infidelity or something like that. And Jesus said, let those who've never sinned cast the first stone. Like, that's also a good example against cancel culture. Back to Lucas's point at the beginning, is that it's very hypocritical, because we all jump on the bandwagon and we all say like, oh, this person is horrible for doing these things. How could they ever have done that? And then some people hypocritically have done the same thing, and they're just not in the position that they would get canceled over it.
All right, that's about all the time we have today. Thank you guys for all being super respectful and all having like thought out your points. We really appreciate you guys participating today. Thank you to everybody who is watching, and you guys have some nice comments from some teachers. And also Britt Helga said appreciated what we're doing. So thank you guys.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
See you guys.